The leather binding crackled as I opened my mother's journal, each page a pristine testament to her obsession with control. I shouldn't have been in her study, shouldn't have been rifling through her desk drawer, but something about the way she'd been whispering with Dad about Madison's engagement had set off alarm bells. I'm Taylor, and I've spent 26 years being the family disappointment, the rebellious twin, the one who couldn't quite measure up to precious Madison's achievements. But what I found in those pages changed everything. Project, Daughter's Futures. Read the first entry, dated back to when Madison and I were just 12. The neat, precise handwriting laid out every detail of our lives, like battle plans. Schools we'd attend, careers we'd pursue, even the types of men we'd marry. Next to Madison's name, law school, partnership track, marriage to established professional by 25. Check, check. And with Lucas in the picture, nearly check. Next to mine, medical school, Johns Hopkins preferred, residency at Father's Hospital, marriage to Dr. James Carlton's son. My hands trembled. Dr. Carlton's son had died of an overdose 3 years ago, but that wasn't the point. The point was that every choice I'd thought I'd made for myself had been orchestrated, manipulated, planned. Taylor? My mother's voice carried up the stairs. Are you up there? I snapped the journal shut, my heart hammering against my ribs. Just looking for my old yearbook. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. Well, come down. Your sister has wonderful news about the wedding plans. Of course she does. Perfect Madison, following the script to the letter. I shoved the journal into my bag, refusing to return it to its prison. Coming! Downstairs, Madison sat perched on the edge of the antique sofa, her engagement ring catching the light. Mother hovered nearby, beaming with pride, while Dad stood by the fireplace, looking every bit the distinguished professor in his tweed jacket. Lucas's law firm is offering him junior partner, Madison announced, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We're thinking of moving the wedding up to accommodate his new schedule. Wonderful news, darling! Mother clasped her hands together. Everything's falling into place exactly as we'd hoped. I couldn't help but laugh, the sound sharp and ugly. They all turned to stare at me. Something amusing, Taylor? Dad's voice carried that familiar note of disapproval. Just thinking about how convenient it all is, I said, my fingers brushing against the journal in my bag. How everything in this family seems to follow such a perfect little plan. Madison's smile faltered. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I stood up, unable to bear another minute of this performance. I need to meet Bryce. That artist? Mother's lip curled slightly. Really, Taylor, don't you think it's time to focus on more serious prospects? The weight of the journal seemed to burn through my bag. You'd know all about that, wouldn't you, Mother? About choosing the right prospects? Taylor, Dad warned, but I was already heading for the door. Don't worry, I called over my shoulder. I'm sure everything will work out exactly according to plan. Outside, I pulled out my phone and texted Bryce. Need to see you, found something. Everything's been a lie. As I walked to my car, I could feel their eyes on me through the window. They had no idea what I'd discovered, no clue that their carefully constructed house of cards was about to come crashing down. Let them think I was just being difficult, rebellious Taylor acting out again. They'd learn soon enough. The journal weighed heavy in my bag, but not as heavy as the realization that my entire life had been a carefully orchestrated manipulation. Well, if they wanted to play puppet master, they were about to learn that some puppets cut their own strings. I started the engine, my mind already racing with possibilities. They thought they could write our stories? Fine. But this time, I'd be the one holding the pen. Bryce's gallery buzzed with the kind of energy my family would call beneath their station. Paint-splattered jeans mixed with designer suits, laughter echoing off exposed brick walls. I clutched my wine glass, savoring every second of missing my parents' precious charity gala. You're thinking too hard again, Bryce said, sliding an arm around my waist. His fingers left invisible paint marks on my black dress, and I loved him for it. The journal? Among other things. I watched a woman in a sequined jumpsuit praise one of his abstract pieces. Mother's already called 4 times. Apparently, I'm embarrassing Madison on her special night. The engagement party isn't for another 2 hours. You could still make it. I pulled out my phone, showing him the latest text from Madison. How dare you abandon me like this? Mother's beside herself. Is this revenge for something? If she only knew. Your sister sounds charming as ever, Bryce said, taking my glass and setting it aside. Come on, I want to show you something. He led me through the crowd to a canvas I hadn't noticed before. The piece showed 2 identical faces, one cracking like a porcelain mask to reveal wild colors underneath. My throat tightened. Is that you and Madison, or how I see you anyway? His eyes searched my face. The series is called Breaking Free. My phone buzzed again. Father this time. Your absence is noted and will be discussed. This behavior is unacceptable. They're going to lose their minds when they see this, I said, gesturing to the painting. Good. Bryce squeezed my hand. Maybe it's time they saw the real you. The gallery door chimed, and my heart stopped. Madison stood in the entrance, her designer dress and perfect makeup looking absurdly out of place. Lucas hovered behind her like an expensive shadow. Taylor! Her voice carried across the room. We need to talk. I met her halfway, aware of every eye in the gallery on us. Shouldn't you be at the gala? Shouldn't you? Her smile was razor sharp. Mother's telling everyone you're sick with food poisoning. I'm supposed to be picking up medication for you. How considerate. What's going on with you? She lowered her voice. First the scene yesterday, now this. And what's that painting supposed to be? Art is open to interpretation, I said sweetly. Though I suppose you'd need an original thought to manage that. Lucas cleared his throat. Madison, we should go. Your father will be furious, she finished. I know. Taylor, please, just come with us. We can fix this. I thought of the journal in my bag, of years of carefully planned manipulation. Fix what exactly? The fact that I'm not following the script? What script? You're not making sense. Ask Mother about her project, the one about our futures. I watched the confusion cross her face. Or, better yet, ask Lucas if he knows about the arrangement Mother made with his father 3 years ago. Madison's perfect mask slipped for just a second. Lucas shifted uncomfortably. You're trying to ruin everything, she whispered. Why? No, Madison, I'm trying to save us both. She grabbed my arm, fingers digging in. Come home, now, or I'll tell them about the night you— Everything okay here? Bryce appeared at my side, his casual tone belied by the tension in his shoulders. Madison released me, smoothing her dress. Family matter, nothing that concerns you. Actually, I said, it concerns everyone in this room. Your newest painting series is going to be quite the talk of the town, isn't it, Bryce? Taylor, Madison warned. The opening's next week. You should all come. I smiled, watching the realization dawn in her eyes. Mother would love to see herself immortalized in oils. All those secrets, right there on canvas. Madison took a step back, pulling Lucas with her. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? You know, sister dear, maybe you should read Mother's journal before deciding whose side you're on. It's quite illuminating about your perfect relationship here. They left without another word, the door chiming behind them like a warning bell. That was intense, Bryce said, watching them go. You okay? I picked up my abandoned wine glass, draining it. I will be, once they realize they can't control me anymore. But as I watched Madison's car pull away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just lit a fuse that would blow our entire family apart. And honestly, I couldn't wait for the explosion. The coffee shop buzzed with morning regulars when Madison slipped into the seat across from me, her designer sunglasses failing to hide her red-rimmed eyes. 3 days had passed since the gallery incident, and her perfect facade was starting to crack. I read it, she whispered, sliding Mother's journal across the table. How did you get this? Does it matter? I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, anchoring myself. What matters is what's in it. Lucas's father approached them last year. Her voice cracked. Before Lucas ever met me, they planned everything. Just like they planned everything else. I leaned forward. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Madison removed her sunglasses, revealing shadows of sleepless nights. I can't just walk away. Do you know what that would do to Mother, to Father's reputation? Their reputation? I laughed, drawing stares from nearby tables. What about your life, Madison? Your happiness? Some of us care about more than just ourselves, Taylor. But her words lacked their usual bite. A text lit up my phone. Bryce. Gallery owner loved the new series. Wants to feature it next month. Madison caught the message. You're really going through with it? The paintings? Why shouldn't I? Mother's always saying art should reflect truth. The truth! She grabbed my wrist, her nails digging in. Like the truth about that night in college? When I what? I yanked my arm back. When I covered for you? When I took the blame for your drunk driving incident because Mother couldn't bear to see her perfect daughter's record tarnished? I never asked you to do that. No, Mother did. Another carefully orchestrated moment in her grand plan. I pulled out my phone, showing her the journal entry from that night. See? She knew exactly what she was doing, binding me with guilt, making me the black sheep so you could shine brighter. Madison's face drained of color. She wouldn't. She did. Just like she arranged your perfect marriage to a man who sees you as a business transaction. Lucas loves me. Lucas loves what you represent. Ask him about the merger his firm is planning with Father's university connections. Ask him why he met with Mother 3 times before accidentally running into you at that charity event. Tears spilled down her cheeks, smearing expensive mascara. Stop it. Why? Because it hurts? Because it's easier to play your role than face the truth? I stood up, gathering my things. The paintings go up next month. Every calculated move, every manipulation, right there on canvas for everyone to see. Please, she grabbed my hand. We can fix this. Together. I'll help you get back in their good graces. For a moment, I saw us as children again, holding hands against the world. But we weren't children anymore, and I wasn't interested in good graces. There's nothing to fix, Madison. This isn't about getting back in their good graces. It's about breaking free. I pulled my hand away. Maybe it's time you did the same. They'll never forgive you for this. Good. I shouldered my bag. Because I'll never forgive them either. As I reached the door, Madison called out, What about me? Will you ever forgive me? I turned back, seeing the desperation in her eyes. That depends. On what? On whether you choose to be their puppet or your own person. Outside, my phone buzzed with a message from Mother. Family dinner tonight, non-negotiable. Your father and I need to discuss your recent behavior. Another text followed. And bring that journal. It's time we had a serious conversation about boundaries and respect. I smiled, thinking of the gallery walls being prepared for next month's show. Mother wanted to talk about boundaries? Perfect. I had a few things to say about those myself. But first, I needed to make one more stop. It was time to pay Lucas's father a visit. After all, if we were going to air the family's dirty laundry, we might as well make it a complete set. Behind me, through the coffee shop window, I could see Madison with her phone pressed to her ear, hands shaking as she dialed. I wondered who she was calling, Lucas or Mother. Either way, the carefully constructed house of cards was starting to sway. And I was just getting started. Bryce's ancient Volkswagen van rumbled down the coastal highway, salt air whipping through the open windows. We'd left the city 3 hours ago, no destination in mind, just an escape from the suffocating weight of family dinner. Your phone's buzzing again, Bryce said, nodding toward my bag on the floor. Let it. I watched waves crash against rocky cliffs, each mile putting distance between me and Mother's carefully orchestrated world. They can wait. You sure about that? He glanced at me. The gallery opening's in 2 weeks. Maybe we should pull over. Something in the distance had caught my eye. An old lighthouse perched on the edge of the world. There. The van crunched onto gravel, and I was out before it fully stopped, climbing the worn path to the lighthouse. Behind me, Bryce called out something about private property, but I kept going. The door was unlocked, a miracle or an invitation, I wasn't sure which. Inside, spiral stairs led up to a room filled with late afternoon light. Dust motes danced in golden beams, and the view stretched forever. "Reminds me of your latest piece," Bryce said, joining me. "The one with the broken chains." My phone buzzed again. This time, I looked. Madison. "Lucas knows about the paintings. He's talking to his father's lawyers." Mother. "Your sister is distraught. What have you done?" Father. "This ends now. Come home immediately. They're trying to stop the show." I handed Bryce my phone. "Legal threats. Classic Lucas." "Can they?" "They can try." I traced my finger through years of dust on the window. "But they don't know about the photos yet." "Photos?" I pulled an envelope from my bag, spreading its contents across the floor. Images of Lucas at private meetings with Mother, documented dates and times. Bank statements showing transfers between accounts. A contract draft with Father's university, conveniently timed with the engagement announcement. "Jesus, Taylor!" Bryce knelt beside me. "Where did you get these?" "Lucas's father's secretary has a conscience, and a hefty bonus in her account now." I gathered the photos back up. Insurance, in case they try to shut us down. My phone lit up with an incoming call. Madison. "You should answer it," Bryce said softly. "She might surprise you." I pressed accept. "What?" I told him no. Madison's voice was steady, stronger than I'd heard in years. "Lucas, the wedding, all of it." I told him no. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "What?" "You were right. About everything." She took a shaky breath. "Mother's furious. She says I'm throwing away everything she's worked for, but I can't do it anymore." Madison. "I need your help, Taylor. Please. I don't know how to be free." The sun was setting now, painting the lighthouse in shades of fire. Below, waves crashed against rocks with relentless determination. "Where are you?" I asked. "The beach house. The one where we used to hide as kids." A pause. "Mother doesn't know I'm here." I looked at Bryce, who was already grabbing his keys. "Stay there. We're coming." "Taylor?" Her voice cracked. "There's something else. Something in Father's study. About why they're so desperate to maintain these connections. The university, it's not what we thought." "What do you mean?" "Just hurry, please, before they—" The line went dead. "Madison?" Nothing. "Madison!" "We're 3 hours away," Bryce said, already heading for the stairs. "If we leave now—" "Wait!" I grabbed his arm. "What if it's a trap? What if Mother put her up to this?" "Does it matter? She's your sister." I thought of the journal, of years of manipulation and control, of Madison's tears in the coffee shop, of the strength in her voice just now. "No," I said finally. "It doesn't matter." We raced down the lighthouse steps, the photos secure in my bag. Behind us, the setting sun painted everything in shades of warning red. Whatever waited at the beach house, truth or trap, would change everything. My phone buzzed one final time. "Mother. You have no idea what you're about to destroy. Some secrets should stay buried." I switched off my phone and climbed into the van. The lighthouse disappeared in our rearview mirror as we sped toward whatever truth waited at the beach house, and whatever consequences came with it. The beach house loomed before us, dark against the star-filled sky. No lights inside, just the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore. Madison's car sat in the driveway, but something felt wrong. The air was too still, too quiet. "Stay here," I told Bryce, but he was already shaking his head. "Not a chance." The front door creaked open at my touch. Inside, moonlight filtered through dusty windows, casting long shadows across forgotten furniture. Everything exactly as we'd left it years ago, when this place was still our sanctuary. Madison? My whisper echoed through empty rooms. No response. Papers scattered across the kitchen table caught my eye. Documents from Father's study. Bank statements, letters, emails printed and highlighted. And there, in the center, a formal complaint filed against the university's research department. Taylor! Bryce's voice, urgent. Someone's coming. Headlights swept across the windows as a car pulled into the driveway. I grabbed the papers, shoving them into my bag alongside the photos. Madison? I called again, louder this time. In here. Her voice, finally, from the back bedroom. But something in her tone made my skin crawl. I pushed open the bedroom door. Madison sat on the edge of the bed, her face in shadow. Mother stood behind her, one hand on Madison's shoulder. Father emerged from the corner, and Lucas stepped out of the ensuite bathroom. Well, Mother said, isn't this cozy? What's going on? I stepped back, bumping into Bryce. Family meeting, Father said. Long overdue. The papers you just picked up, Lucas added, are confidential university documents. Removing them from campus is a serious offense. Madison wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, Taylor. They were already here when I arrived. You set me up. The realization burned like acid. We're trying to help you, Mother said. This vendetta of yours, these paintings, they'll destroy everything we've built. Everything you've built on lies, you mean? I pulled out the photos. Like arranging Madison's marriage to cover up Father's research scandal? Madison's head snapped up. What? Oh, didn't they tell you? I tossed the photos onto the bed. Ask them about the falsified research data. Ask them why Lucas's firm really needs those university connections. Enough! Father stepped forward. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? The complaint shows everything. How long before the board finds out? Taylor, Mother's voice turned pleading. Think about what you're doing. This isn't just about us anymore. The scandal would affect Madison's future. Your future. Our futures? I laughed. You mean the futures you planned in that journal? The ones you manipulated us into? The journal was a mistake, she admitted. But everything we did was for you girls. No? I grabbed Bryce's hand. Everything you did was for yourselves. Lucas moved to block the doorway. The paintings can't go public. We're prepared to offer a generous settlement. Move! Bryce's voice was quiet but firm. Or what? Lucas smiled. You'll add assault charges to the theft? Taylor, Madison stood suddenly. Wait, please. She reached for the photos, scanning them quickly. Her face went pale. Is this true? All of it? Mother grabbed her arm. Madison, darling. Don't. Madison jerked away. Just don't. In that moment of confusion, Bryce shoved past Lucas. I followed, clutching my bag of evidence. Behind us, voices raised in argument. Taylor! Father's voice boomed. If you leave now, there's no coming back. I paused at the front door, turning to face my family one last time. Madison stood apart from them now, tears streaming down her face. Mother reached for her, but she stepped away. Good, I said, because I'm done playing your games. We ran to the van, engine roaring to life as Lucas emerged from the house. But he wasn't looking at us. He was staring at Madison, who walked calmly to her own car. As we pulled away, I saw Madison following in her rearview mirror. 2 sets of headlights cutting through the darkness, leaving the beach house and its secrets behind. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The university board meets tomorrow. Be ready. I looked at Bryce, then back at Madison's headlights behind us. The gallery opens in 2 weeks. He nodded, understanding. Time to show them who you really are. No, I said, thinking of Madison's tears, of Mother's schemes, of Father's lies. Time to show everyone who they really are. The university boardroom felt like a tomb, all polished mahogany and suffocating silence. I sat alone at the massive table, surrounded by empty chairs, waiting. My evidence spread before me like a hand of cards in a game I was suddenly unsure how to play. The door opened. Not the board members I'd expected, but father. Alone. Where is everyone? My voice sounded small in the cavernous room. There is no meeting. He closed the door softly. Not anymore. The papers beneath my hands trembled. What did you do? What you forced me to do. He stayed by the door, watching me with eyes I'd never seen before. Not angry, just tired. The board chairman received an interesting call this morning about a disturbed young woman making false accusations, about stolen documents and fabricated evidence. They're not false. You know they're not. The university's legal team has already issued cease and desist orders to every gallery in the city. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Your exhibition won't be opening. My phone buzzed. A text from Bryce. Galleries locked. Police tape everywhere. What's happening? You can't stop people from seeing the truth, I said, but my voice cracked. The truth. Father finally moved closer. You want truth, Taylor? Here's truth. Madison's missing. Your mother hasn't slept in days. The university's reputation, my life's work, hangs by a thread. And for what? Your artistic tantrum? Don't you dare. Even Bryce's mother called me. That stopped me cold. Diana's worried about him, about the legal consequences he might face as your accomplice. My phone buzzed again. Diana this time. We need to talk about Bryce's future. You got to her. The realization felt like drowning. You got to everyone. We're trying to save this family. He placed the envelope on the table. Including you. Inside was a contract. A position at a prestigious art school in Europe. Full scholarship, living expenses, everything I'd once dreamed of. All I had to do was sign a non-disclosure agreement and leave immediately. Your mother's idea, Father said softly. A fresh start, away from all this. My phone kept buzzing. Bryce again. Police asking questions about stolen documents. Diana says I should get a lawyer. And if I refuse? Then the police have questions about certain stolen documents, about defamation and harassment, about conspiracy to commit fraud. Father straightened his tie. Bryce seems like a nice young man. It would be a shame to see his career ruined before it begins. The walls seemed to close in. Everything I'd fought for, everyone I'd tried to protect, all of it slipping away. You have until tomorrow morning. Father headed for the door. For once in your life, Taylor, think about someone besides yourself. He left me there, surrounded by evidence that suddenly felt worthless. My phone kept buzzing, but I couldn't bear to look anymore. The drive home was a blur. Bryce waited on his mother's porch, looking lost. Diana thinks I should stay away from you for a while, he said before I could speak, until this legal stuff clears up. Bryce. Maybe she's right. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe we moved too fast, got caught up in the rebellion of it all. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Finally, he looked at me. You're fighting ghosts, Taylor, and I'm not sure I can watch you destroy yourself doing it. I reached for him, but he stepped back. Behind him, Diana watched through the window, her usual warmth replaced by something that looked too much like my mother's disappointment. Back in my apartment, I found Madison's engagement ring on my kitchen counter. No note, no explanation. Just that perfect diamond catching the light, throwing accusations across my walls. My phone showed missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Galleries canceling, lawyers warning, friends distancing themselves. The last message was from Mother. We only wanted to protect you. From yourself. I stared at my reflection in the window, seeing for the first time what they all saw. Not a warrior for truth, but a destroyer of lives. My family's carefully constructed world lay in ruins, yes, but I stood in those ruins alone. The contract Father had given me sat unopened in my bag. Europe, escape, freedom maybe, but at what cost? My phone buzzed one final time. An unknown number. Some secrets are worth keeping. Some cages are built to protect. Choose wisely. Outside, the city lights blurred through tears I refused to acknowledge. I'd wanted revenge, wanted truth, wanted freedom. Now I had none of them. And tomorrow morning, I had a choice to make. The lighthouse stood sentinel against the dawn, just as it had the day everything changed. I pulled into the gravel lot, Father's contract burning a hole in my bag, and found Madison's car already waiting. She sat on the hood, wearing jeans and a sweater I'd never seen before, nothing like her usual perfect ensembles. Her engagement ring was conspicuously absent. "I knew you'd come here," she said. "How?" "Because it's where I came." She slid off the car. "3 days ago, when I left Lucas, when I finally understood what you've been trying to tell us all along." The lighthouse door creaked open behind me. Mother emerged, followed by Father. Of course, nothing in our family was ever truly private. "Girls," Mother started, but Madison cut her off. "I found the original research papers," she said. "The ones Father destroyed. I've had copies all along." Father went still. "Madison." I kept them as insurance," she continued, "in case you ever tried to force me into something I didn't want, like marrying Lucas." "Everything we did," Mother began, "was for us?" I laughed. "Like arranging Madison's marriage to cover up Father's fraud? Like planning our entire lives in that journal?" "You don't understand," Father said. "The university's reputation is built on lies," Madison finished. "Just like our family." Mother stepped forward, reaching for us both. "Please, let's discuss this at home, as a family." "We're done discussing." I pulled out my phone, showing them the screen. "The paintings are already online. Every gallery in the city might have refused to show them, but the internet is forever." Father's face darkened. "You've destroyed everything." "No," a new voice said. Bryce emerged from behind the lighthouse, camera in hand. "You did that yourself." "What is he doing here?" Mother demanded. "Documenting," Bryce said simply. "Every word, every confession, live streaming to the university board right now." Father lunged for the camera, but Madison stepped between us. "Stop! Just stop trying to control everything." "Madison," Mother pleaded, "think about your future." "I am." Madison moved to stand beside me. "For the first time in my life, I actually am." "The contract," Father said suddenly. "The art school offer. Take it, Taylor. Both of you. We can fix this." I pulled out the contract, holding it up. Pages of carefully worded silence, of freedom bought with lies. Madison nodded, understanding in her eyes. The paper tore easily, scraps catching in the morning breeze. "No more fixes," I said. "No more perfect plans." "You'll regret this," Father warned. "Both of you." "Maybe," Madison replied, "but at least it'll be our regret, our choice." Mother sank onto the lighthouse steps, her perfect composure finally cracking. "What will people say?" "The truth," I said. "For once." Bryce lowered his camera, moving to stand beside me. "It's done. The board has everything." Father's phone buzzed. Once, twice, a dozen times. The truth spreading like wildfire through the academic community. His hands shook as he read the messages. "What have you done?" he whispered. "Exactly what you taught us," Madison said, "to protect the family name, just not in the way you expected." Mother looked up, tears streaming down her face. "You're still our daughters." "Yes," I said softly, "but we're not your puppets anymore." The sun crested the horizon, painting the lighthouse in shades of gold. Behind us, waves crashed against the shore. The same waves that had witnessed our childhood escapes, our teenage secrets, our adult revelations. "Come on," Bryce said quietly. "Diana's waiting. She wants to talk to both of you." Madison squeezed my hand. Together, I looked at our parents. Mother broken on the steps, Father staring at his phone as his career crumbled. Part of me wanted to comfort them, to find some way to soften this blow. But sometimes freedom comes at a cost. Together, I agreed. We left them there, in the shadow of the lighthouse, where everything had started. In my rearview mirror, I watched them grow smaller. 2 figures against the dawn. Their perfect world, finally, irrevocably, shattered. Madison's voice was barely a whisper. "Do you think we did the right thing?" I thought of the journal, of arranged marriages and planned lives, of cages built with love, but cages nonetheless. "I think we did the true thing," I said. "Finally." The lighthouse disappeared around the bend, and with it, the last traces of who we'd been forced to be. Ahead lay uncertainty, chaos, freedom. It felt like breathing for the first time. Diana's garden bloomed with wildflowers, untamed and perfect in their chaos. The wedding arch Bryce built stood among them, draped not with traditional white, but with strips of canvas bearing fragments of our story. Paintings that had once meant to expose, now transformed into celebration. Madison adjusted my dress, her hands steady. "Mother's car just pulled up." "And father?" "Still in the driveway. He hasn't decided yet." Through the window, I watched Mother straighten her hat, clutching an envelope I recognized. Her journal, the one that started everything. She looked smaller somehow, less certain of her place in the world. "You don't have to do this," Madison said. "Yes, I do." I touched the canvas strips, each one a piece of truth we'd fought to tell. Some stories need endings. Mother found us in the garden, her perfect posture at odds with Diana's wild roses. "Taylor, Thank you for coming." I took the journal from her trembling hands. "I wasn't sure you would." "Your father may not." She glanced at the driveway where his car idled. "But I needed to give you this." She pressed another envelope into my hands. "I found it while packing up your old room." Inside was a child's drawing, 2 stick figures with wild hair, holding hands against a backdrop of scribbled stars. On the back, in my childish writing, "Me and Madison being free." "You were always trying to fly," Mother said softly. "I thought I was giving you wings, but I was just building a prettier cage." Madison touched the drawing. "I remember this. We hung it on the lighthouse wall." "And now here we are," I said, "finally free." The garden gate creaked. Father stood there, looking lost among the unplanned beauty of Diana's flowers. Our eyes met across the space between us, the space filled with broken expectations and painful truths. He took one step forward, then another. Bryce appeared at my side, his artist's hands steady on my shoulders. "Everyone's ready." The ceremony wasn't what Mother would have planned. No string quartet, no perfectly coordinated colors. Instead, Diana played her old guitar, and Madison read a poem about butterflies breaking free of chrysalises. The witnesses were a mix of Bryce's artist friends and a few brave souls from our old life who'd chosen truth over appearance. When it came time for family blessings, Father stood. The garden held its breath. "I spent my life," he said, voice rough, "building things that looked perfect on paper. Careers, reputations, family, but paper burns." He looked at Mother, then at Madison, finally at me. "Truth endures, and the truth is, I'm proud of you both, for being braver than I ever was." Mother dabbed her eyes with an immaculate handkerchief. Perhaps we could learn to build something new, something real this time." I looked at Madison, saw my own cautious hope reflected in her eyes. "Maybe," I said. "One day at a time." The reception spilled across Diana's garden, watercolor sunset painting everything in shades of possibility. I found Madison by the canvas strips, tracing the painted images of our shared past. "Lucas called," she said. "The university board cleared his firm of involvement. He wanted to know if—" "And?" She smiled, really smiled, the kind that reached her eyes. "I told him I'm applying to art school. Diana's been teaching me pottery." Across the garden, Mother watched us, her perfect mask softened by something that looked like understanding. Father stood beside her, hand tentatively finding hers. They looked smaller, more human, more real. Bryce wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Ready to go?" I touched the canvas nearest us, the lighthouse painting, but altered now. The 2 faces weren't breaking apart anymore, but merging, finding strength in their differences. "Almost," I said. I took Mother's journal to the garden's fire pit, where Diana kept a small blaze going. Madison joined me, then mother, then father. One by one, we tore out pages, not in anger now, but in release. Each page burned away, taking with it the weight of expectations, the burden of perfection. The final page caught the wind, dancing away from the flames. I caught it, recognizing my mother's handwriting. My dearest daughters. But the rest was blank. Unwritten. Keep it, Mother said softly. Some stories need new endings. I folded the page carefully, tucking it away. Not as a reminder of what was, but as a promise of what could be. When truth replaces perfection. When love outweighs control. When freedom means writing your own story. The wildflowers swayed in the evening breeze, untamed and beautiful, just like the life ahead.
My name is Sandra Holmes. I am 40 years old and I have no kids from my second marriage. My husband is a kind man who never misses our monthly dates. No matter how busy he is, he always keeps his promises. I know I shouldn't compare him to my first husband. But I have never regretted my divorce, nor have I regretted getting remarried. And this month is our 8th wedding anniversary. My husband had reserved a table at a fancy restaurant with a view of the sea. I thought we were going to have a wonderful time. But then I ran into the last person I wanted to see. It was Jim Stone, my ex-husband from 10 years ago. We were about to leave the restaurant after finishing our meal, when my husband excused himself to go to the restroom. I was admiring the ocean view from the window. What a beautiful view! As I gazed at the sea, I reminisced about the times my husband and I had spent looking at the ocean together. Just then, I heard someone call my name. And when I turned around, "Hey, what's so beautiful? Do you think a regular ocean appears nice to someone like you who's pretty much broke?" Jim. "Hey, long time no see. Why are you... Why?" "I'm the one who should be asking you why." Jim sat down in the chair my husband had been using, looking at me as if I was a joke. "Yes, those eyes. I put up with those eyes for a whole decade of our marriage. I never thought I'd run into you here. Can someone like you, who doesn't have much money, really eat at a fancy place like this? Can you even afford it? Or are you here for a once-in-a-lifetime thing? It's our wedding anniversary." "Ah. I see. Poor people can only come to places like this on anniversaries, huh? I come here often, you know." "You're still pathetic. Isn't there someone with you?" "Yeah, there is. I just sent her to pay. You know, handling money is a woman's job." I thought he was still the same, always belittling women. "Ah, she's back. Just wait there." The woman who came back was his lover from 10 years ago. She has aged quite a bit, her beauty half what it used to be, and she looks worn out from life. I guess Jim has been living it up while his wife suffers. "You're still wearing shabby clothes, aren't you? Aren't you embarrassed to dress so poorly? Talking to such a terrible man like him makes me feel sick." I turned my gaze toward the restroom, hoping my husband would return soon, and there he was. He had been watching us for a while, as I was talking to another man. Seeing the confusion on my face, he approached us. "Excuse me, do you need something from my wife?" "Your wife? This woman is your wife?" "Yes." "What do you need? You also look poor." "I guess poor women always remarry poor men." "Please don't be rude. My husband is a very respectable man." Jim snorted in disapproval at my response. "Humph. You must be just a useless, broke man." Then he glared at my husband. I thought, this man really hasn't changed at all. Jim was very selfish. Although he worked for a major corporation, it was unclear if he was competent. He was good at sucking up to his boss, though. He blamed his mistakes on his juniors and loudly claimed their achievements were due to his guidance. How he managed to climb the corporate ladder is beyond me. But by the time we divorced, he had become a manager. Jim claimed he was an elite employee, but I never thought of him as elite. I graduated from a prestigious university. That's what Jim would always brag about. Not just any university, but a very different kind from the ordinary ones. When I was only dating him, I believed his exaggerated stories and thought he was really smart. But when we got married, I discovered that was his only real talent. Plus, he consistently degraded me, even though I only completed high school. Your parents were too poor to send you to university, right? But it's good for you. You didn't have the brains for it anyway. If your family had been rich, you would have had to go to university. But it would have been impossible for someone as stupid as you. My family wasn't poor. I just wanted to start working sooner rather than going to college. Enough with the excuses. You can't handle not making excuses, right? You're an incompetent woman, after all. It's good for women, isn't it? Even if they're incompetent or stupid, as long as they have good looks, they can get by. If they catch a competent man, they can live well. I never imagined he would say such things before we married. So his transformation after marriage shocked me. Moreover, his parents weren't wealthy landowners. His father was just a director. Yet he ruthlessly looked down on anyone he considered poor. You really can't do anything right. You're bad at cooking, you can't clean, and you can't even have kids. Marrying you was a huge mistake. It wasn't a physical issue that prevented me from having kids, it was the stress caused by Jim. My family has always valued frugality and cherishing what we have. But when I cooked with radish leaves to save money, he yelled, "Are you trying to feed me trash?" and threw them in the trash. It made me realize how different we fundamentally were. One day, he told me he had a lover. The woman was much younger than he was. He pushed for a divorce, saying it was better for him to remarry a younger woman. I was happy to divorce such a man. I signed the divorce papers. Who is this man, Sandra? He's my ex-husband, Jim Stone. Oh, I see. Of course, I had told my husband about everything Jim had said and done to me. It had been a painful 10 years, and I had shared it all with tears. Then, without saying anything, my husband just listened and finally said, "Let's be happy from now on." You really dared to marry such a woman like her? Since you're marrying a woman from a poor family, you must be a broke guy too. Well, maybe. Maybe not. Of course, you are. So, you're also a broke man, huh? What? Marrying a poor person means you're broke too, am I right? But, why did you divorce such a wonderful person? Wonderful? Your eyes must be fooling you. Truly wonderful means having a beautiful wife like mine. He indicated his wife as he pointed at her, who stood there looking embarrassed. Is that woman your wife? Yes, she's beautiful, isn't she? She's actually my boss's daughter. Marrying the boss's daughter definitely helps one climb the career ladder faster. Marrying a broke woman like you probably means you're just a regular employee. Too bad. A regular employee? I haven't heard that word in years. What are you trying to prove? Bottom-tier guy marrying a bottom-tier woman. It just means you'll both be broke for the rest of your lives. And you think you deserve to eat in such a fancy restaurant like this? Well, this level of restaurant isn't a problem for us. Yeah, sure, if that's what you think. Just then, a waiter passed by. And my husband pulled out a black card, instructing him to settle the bill. Jim, surprised by the black card, tried not to show it but snorted again. Is that a black card? Showing off a card like that here, you're not used to it. Not used to it? You must have borrowed it from someone. Showing off by flashing the card. But later you'll have to pay back the person who lent you that card, right? I can imagine you're scared to splash the cash in such a place. It's all part of your act. Ha! Funny thing to say. Who would lend their card, I wonder? No matter how naive someone is, they wouldn't lend their card. How would you know that? Jim, you shouldn't say such insulting things. What's insulting? I'm just stating the truth. There's no way you could be wealthy if you married a poor woman like her. My wife is poor, you say? Yes, that's right. Her folks' place is a rundown one-floor home. You know that, right? Or maybe you were too embarrassed to visit her home. So you went to a family restaurant instead? Meeting her parents at a family restaurant for a marriage proposal is unheard of. But for poor people like you, it's probably the norm. Family restaurant, huh? The fact that you thought of that means you must have done your greeting there, right? If you hadn't experienced it yourself, you wouldn't have thought of it. What are you talking about? I'm not short on money. I wouldn't do such a miserable thing. Yet you came up with it. I never would have thought of that. Right, Sandra? What about you? Well, I think I'd like to go to a family restaurant occasionally, but we rarely get the chance. Exactly. What? You're lying. When you were with me, you were happy to go to family restaurants. That's because I had never really been to one before. Oh, I bet. You sure talk big. Coming to such a fancy restaurant just makes you want to act all important. Maybe that's you? It seems like you don't fit in this kind of place. What? You seem out of place, don't you think? There's no way I'm out of place. You're the one who doesn't fit in here. Do you even know who I am? Why would I know you? If you want me to remember you, just become famous. I am well known, though. Well, it's impossible for a regular employee like you to know me, I guess. What? I'm a manager, not a regular employee. Manager? Yes, how about that? Impressive, isn't it? At that moment, the chauffeur arrived, greeted politely, and informed my husband. Sir, your car is ready. Thank you. Huh, what's going on? Oh well, you're probably just the president of some small company. I work for a major corporation, the Holmes Group, and I'm a manager there. Oh, you're still just a manager? Excuse me. You consider yourself top tier. But staying as a manager at your age won't bring any advancement. What, this man works at our company? Yes, he's been with our company for a long time. What do you mean our company? You talk big, but you're just an office lady from a small company. That's right, I don't have kids or any reason to quit my job. But. So, you can't have kids? I was right, you can't have kids. Something's wrong with you. Hey, there's a line to how rude you can be. Sandra is perfectly fine. If she's fine, why can't she get pregnant? Women are supposed to have kids. I don't need to explain that to you. You can't say it because it would prove there's something wrong with her. This man is hopeless. Yes, so bad it's beyond saving. This man's name is Jim Stone. Yes, I understand. He's fired. Sandra, please contact HR. Okay. What? What are you saying? Trying to shock me with that? What company's president are you, thinking you can fool me with such an obvious act? Are you stupid? Jim, my husband is the president of the Holmes Group. What? That can't be. However, the driver, with a look of pity, nodded as he looked at Jim. What, seriously? Is he really our president? Yes, and I am his wife and the vice president of our company. What? That's ridiculous. How could Sandra from a poor family end up as vice president? With just a high school diploma? Such things don't matter. Whether someone graduated from high school or college doesn't determine their worth. That's ridiculous. I will never forgive anyone who insults my wife. No, there's a union, yes, there is a union. The union will protect us employees. You're a manager, right? Managers are not union members. So, you are not protected by the union. Didn't you know that? Seriously. Well, you better brace yourself. Since you insulted my wife, you must face the consequences. Oh no. Jim had a stunned look on his face, but my husband didn't care and asked me if we should go. Then, we left the table. That night, perhaps bothered by the afternoon's events, Jim called. His attitude was completely different from his arrogance earlier. Sandra, it's been a while. What do you mean? We already had a talk this afternoon, Jim. Yes. What can I do for you? Your dismissal hasn't been issued yet. You guys were just joking, right? Huh? What do you mean? About you being the vice president and your husband being the president. No, they're all true. I'm surprised you don't know who your own company's president and vice president are. Why would you be the vice president, though? Because the best way I can help my husband is from the vice president's position. No. But it's strange. Why would a high school graduate be the vice president? It's not strange at all. I only graduated high school because I wanted to start working early. But after we separated, I acquired a college degree. Huh, really? Yes, there are schools you can do from home. So, you really are the president's wife? Yes. How did you manage to marry the president? When did you get married? We got married after I divorced you. I met the president soon after, and we dated for about 2 years before getting married. Why would the president take an interest in someone like you? Stop being so rude. Oh, sorry. Connections are mysterious, aren't they? I just happened to meet the president. Even so, why would he marry someone broke like you? Is he a philanthropist? No one marries for charity. If he's not a philanthropist, did he marry you to make you his slave? It's odd otherwise. Maybe today you got lucky to be taken to a fancy restaurant. But usually you must be having plain, poor meals, right? And living a difficult life where you can't even buy what you like, am I right? Why would you think that? That's not true at all. You're the only one who would do such a thing. There's no way you could marry such a rich man. Why do you think so? Rich people have connections with politicians and other wealthy people. If a poorly raised woman like you shows up at their parties, it would embarrass the president. Or maybe he lets his mistress attend those instead. You're making wild assumptions. If you keep looking down on me like this, you'll truly regret it. I'm just concerned for you. A woman with a poor upbringing like you marrying a rich man like the president will only suffer. A regular employee's husband would suit you better. Marrying someone richer than me. You must be a foolish woman who can't see ahead. Who's the fool here? If you called just to say that, I'm hanging up. No, wait. I'm not trying to look down on you. It's just true that you come from poverty that can't be helped. Thinking I'm looking down on you for that is completely wrong. You say I come from a poor family, but my father is wealthy. Your family is poorer than mine. I didn't say it back then because of your pride. Your family home isn't even half the size of mine. Your father is just a department head, and you're still just a manager. That's not true. When I proposed to you, you were living in a small single-story house. That was because we were renovating our home then. We had stored all our belongings elsewhere. It was just a temporary residence, no need to move to a big house, my mother said. That can't be true. You don't have to believe it, but since the renovation is finished. Even if you say you want to visit my parents at home, you've stubbornly refused to go again. I couldn't tell you the truth. Who would visit such a poor, run-down house? You really are hopeless. Then, I'll send you a picture. This is my family home. You'll see from the picture. The photo I sent was of a large mansion. That's my house. I lived there for a while after our divorce. What? That can't be true. It's true. If this is true, then why were you working as an office lady in a small company? If you're so rich, you wouldn't need to work. And if you did work, wouldn't it be at a large corporation? Indeed, my father is the president of a major company. That company was a new one he started. When it was time to decide who would be the president, it was decided that my brother would take the role. So, I volunteered to handle the administrative work. Now, that company has advanced to the top of the industry. Is that true? Were you really so rich? Yes, this is the truth. This is the real me that you used to look down on. So, that's why you could marry the president? That's not it. I met the president because we shared the same hobbies. We met through our hobbies and hit it off. He didn't know I was the daughter of a wealthy family. And I didn't know he was the president. So, you are at the company where I work because of that? How long have you been at that company? I joined the company right after our divorce. I had a connection by chance. Why? When you were with me, you were a clerk at your brother's company. And after we divorced, you changed jobs? That's right. My brother's company has grown so much. And he told me it was time to do what I love. So I thought I might as well pursue what I've always wanted to do. Then, just as a senior position became vacant, they headhunted me. But at that stage, I still had no acquaintance with the president. He was still someone high above. I don't understand. How can you have connections like that? So, rich people just connect with other rich people? That's why I'm saying those things don't matter. Why do you think like that? It's because of that mindset that you're still just a manager. I wonder why your wife hasn't gotten tired of you yet. She can't get tired of me. I'm supporting her. Keep it up with that attitude, and you'll get what's coming to you. Anyway, that's the situation, so stop belittling me already. I wasn't trying to belittle you. I really thought you were poor. About that dismissal you mentioned this afternoon. Oh, yes, your dismissal. After all the mocking you did, it's only natural you'd be dismissed. That would make me in a tough spot. Can you talk to the president so I don't get fired? What? You were just mocking me tremendously, and yet you ask not to be dismissed? That's impossible, you know. I have nothing but resentment towards you. Why? The fact that you don't think you're resented is truly astonishing. What have I done to you? There's too much to even remember, it's that much. I bet your wife thinks the same as me. Why don't you ask her what she really thinks? Though I doubt she'll tell you. I only said those things because I thought you were poor. Why do you think I'm mocking you when I'm just being honest? Once words are spoken, they can't be taken back, you know? You should understand that as an adult. I do understand that. Then you should understand why you're being dismissed, right? No, I don't understand at all. Please, I'll be in trouble if I'm dismissed. If it were just about this afternoon, the president might have overlooked it. But then you had to call and ask why this and why that. My husband is here now, frowning. He really thinks you're hopeless. Maybe you should just give up, there's no saving you. No. If the president is right there, why can't you just say so? It's only natural for a husband and wife to be together. Besides, you didn't ask if someone was with me, did you? That's true, but you've poured gasoline on your own fire. You mocked not just me, but my parents and my husband too. Look, I didn't think you'd get this angry. Please forgive me. If I had known you were a wealthy lady, I wouldn't have said such mocking things. I won't say them again, please forgive me. Just give up. I think your dismissal order will come down tomorrow. Wait, please. Jim's voice echoed on the other end of the phone, but I hung up and looked at my husband. The next day, Jim came to the president's office. His face was all white, with dark circles under his eyes. And he seemed to be in a really bad condition. I was in a meeting with my husband, the president, about business matters. But I was startled by Jim's appearance. Jim, what's wrong? I'm very sorry. Jim apologized as he sat down on the spot. Jim, what are you doing? Please, just don't fire me. What do you mean? Of course, the president knew about yesterday's conversation. He had guessed from my responses during the call. And I had detailed Jim's remarks after hanging up. Therefore, his impression of Jim was very poor, and his anger was greater than mine. I am truly sorry again. I didn't know your wife was from a wealthy family. I think she is a perfect match for the president's wife. I also heard she graduated from university, even if it was through correspondence. She's a hard worker, a far cry from my own wife. So you decided on her as your wife, and then you got rid of her, right? What? Jim looked up at the president, wondering how he knew such a thing. Of course, I've told my husband everything. We're married, after all. Or do you and your wife not talk about your pasts? No, it's not like that, but that was a long time ago. I was young then. I thought Sandra was just a poor man's daughter. So I thought it was okay to have a mistress. How does it come to that? Is that why you think it's okay to commit sexual harassment or power harassment? What do you mean? Don't tell me you haven't done it? There are complaints from your female coworkers. They say if our company doesn't handle it, they'll go to the police. Our company was just discussing what to do about it. When your disrespectful remarks came yesterday. It's really hopeless, isn't it? That's right. I wouldn't have thought you were actually harassing or bullying. But watching you yesterday, it seemed all too true. You don't even regard women as people, do you? You think they're below you. No, I never, even if that were true, firing me would be too harsh. Please, show some mercy. Well, indeed, you have a family. If you were fired, you wouldn't be the only one in trouble. That's right. Exactly. My husband smirked and looked at me. So, what do you think, Sandra? How about sending Jim to our Ohio branch? Wait, what? The Ohio branch is in a region with very few people, practically unsustainable as a company. The former president, who came from that town, established the branch there to help the local people. But it's a lonely place with just one employee. The previous employee reportedly went mad from the loneliness. We want you to turn that branch around in 3 years. If you can do that, we'll bring you back here. Of course, if you can't, you'll spend your retirement in Ohio. Thank you. I appreciate it. Under the guise of the president's mercy, Jim set off for the Ohio branch. But both myself and my husband knew it was an impossible task. Having to work tirelessly alone for the small number of town residents. It was obvious that there wouldn't be any profit to be made. Unaware of this, Jim moved to the branch all motivated. His transfer was with his mistress who had been his wife. But surely she wouldn't be satisfied with just the cold and nothing else there. And eventually, she reached her limit. His salary plummeted, and despite being the branch manager in name, his pay was minimal, leading his wife to start yelling. This resulted in daily arguments. And although he boasted that if he turned things around in 3 years, he could return to the head office, his city-bred wife couldn't believe his words. She left the divorce papers and went back to the city. Jim tried his best for a year, but no matter how hard he worked, the population wouldn't increase and no profits would come. Eventually, he realized that no amount of effort here would change anything. And one day submitted his resignation. After leaving the company on his own terms, Jim contacted his wife, but by then, she had found someone new. Jim was not only ignored by her but was beaten up by her new man. And ended up in the hospital. After being discharged, Jim looked for a job, but at his age, he found nothing. And life became harder for him. He lived in a shabby, run-down apartment. And the only job he could find was as a nighttime store clerk. The man who had once boasted of graduating from a prestigious university now stood alone in a store at night. As for me, I continued to be protected by my kind husband. Enjoying another wonderful date this month. Marrying him changed my life so much, I'm grateful that Jim and I divorced.
Vanessa. I want a divorce. I see. No matter the reason, I can't live with someone who has been unfaithful. Let's get divorced right away. I printed out the divorce papers on the computer and presented them to David. Sign it now. I will sign it after, and we can submit it immediately. I'm sorry for hurting you. Thank you for understanding. We will be happy. As David and Alex were about to leave, Alex approached me and whispered in my ear. It's going to be a luxurious life for me from now on. Sorry for stealing David from you. After saying that, Alex showed a triumphant expression and left arm in arm with David. After all the divorce filing process was done, Alex stretched and spoke to me. Finally, it's over. Well, I guess this was necessary for me to be happy with David. Vanessa, good luck living a frugal life. With a triumphant look, Alex laughed condescendingly at me. I didn't respond. David looked puzzled, but then joined the conversation. Why does it turn into a conversation about Vanessa becoming poor for divorcing me? Huh? Because you're a high earner, David. Since Vanessa is a housewife, she'll lose her income, right? Hearing Alex's words, David burst out laughing. What are you talking about? We are the ones who will be living the poor life. My name is Vanessa. I'm a working housewife. My job is very busy, and I spend a lot of time away from home. David, my husband, supports me by taking care of all the household chores. He's essentially a full-time house husband. We've only been married for 3 months. Despite my absence from home, David never complains and always takes care of me when I'm tired from work. I truly appreciate him. We had a harmonious marriage. But I never thought that the arrival of a certain person would change everything. One day, when I got home, David spoke to me. Can I invite an old friend of mine over sometime? That's fine, but it's unusual for you to invite someone over. I met up with him after a long time recently. We had a great time and agreed to meet again. I want to introduce him to you. David smiled as he explained the situation, and I couldn't help but smile too. That's great, thank you. I should be able to take the next weekend off. So please ask him about his schedule? Okay, thanks, Vanessa. With a happy face, David immediately started sending a message on his phone. I've hardly ever seen David angry or in a bad mood. I love his kind and honest nature and carefree smile. David's old friend is named Alex. He's free next weekend, so he's coming over. David holds him in high regard. He must be a wonderful person. I was also looking forward to meeting Alex. The next weekend, Alex visited our home. David was busy cooking various dishes since the morning to entertain his childhood friend. His skills in house chores are quite impressive, especially his cooking. The delicious-looking dishes were lined up on the table. Alex would surely be pleased. Alex is nearby. I'll go pick him up. With that, David left the house to welcome Alex. Our home is in a high-rise apartment with a concierge always stationed at the entrance. First-time visitors often get confused, so we make it a point to go out and welcome our guests. I wondered what he would be like. As I waited eagerly for her arrival, I heard the door opening. Come in, please.
Hello.
Hearing the conversation, I was puzzled. The voice sounded high for a man. When Alex entered the living room, I was surprised. Wow, what a room. It's so luxurious. There stood a woman, looking around the room curiously. David. This person. Let me introduce you. This is my childhood friend, Alex. Alex, this is my wife, Vanessa. Hello, nice to meet you, Alex here. Hello, nice to meet you. I hurriedly returned the greeting. Assuming from David's childhood friend and the androgynous name Alex, I thought a man was coming. David could have mentioned she was a woman. While slightly uneasy, David and I entertained Alex. As we moved to the dining table for dinner, Alex naturally sat next to David. Normally, wouldn't David and I sit next to each other? I thought, but David seemed unconcerned. It wasn't a formal occasion. And so I didn't make any particular comment as Alex deliberately moved her chair closer to David as she sits next to him. This house is really amazing. The furniture is luxurious too, it's really nice. Right? We can live like this thanks to Vanessa. Really? A couple supporting each other, huh? Alex gazed up at David, looking into his face without ever glancing at me. I just watched the two of them talk. Watching Alex touch David occasionally while they talked cheerfully, I felt uncomfortable. David seemed to not mind. But it was easy to imagine that Alex did not think of David as just an old friend. remaining silent to avoid ruining the mood. David suddenly turned to me and said, "She's fun, right?" He truly believed that, not as a taunt. So, I responded with a forced smile.
Yeah.
Surely, David did not realize how I felt. He must think I'm genuinely enjoying myself. Then, Alex, who had never spoken to me directly before, turned to me and said, "I'm really having fun. Can I come over again?" Her smile did not reach her eyes. Seeing my vague response, David beamed and said, "I'm glad you two are getting along." After that, Alex started visiting our house several times a week. At first, she came on weekends when I was home. But gradually her visits became more frequent, even during my working hours. Today, as I returned home, I heard chuckles coming from the living room. I sighed and entered the living room. There, David and Alex were sitting together on the sofa, laughing joyfully. Alex was intertwined with David's arm. Even when she noticed my return, she made no move to let go. Already tired, this sight only drained me further. David greeted me with a smile, "Welcome back, Vanessa." Without addressing me, Alex simply said, "I'll be leaving then," and left the house. Alex was here again? Hasn't she been coming over too much lately? I had to ask as it was draining me. While preparing dinner, David replied,
Yeah.
"She has. But Alex recently got divorced and moved back in with her parents. I think she's feeling lonely because everyone around her is busy with work or their own families. I feel sorry for her. But I honestly don't feel good about you two meeting when I'm not around. She is too close to you, which makes me feel uneasy. I wish you would limit it a bit." I believe David has no ill intentions. He genuinely wants to help a friend in need. However, I couldn't help but dislike how Alex would touch David casually in front of me and make herself at home during the day. David listened to my concerns, apologized, and agreed to reduce the frequency of their meetings. All I could do was trust David's word. However, Alex still kept coming to our house. Although she targeted times when I was at work, and I never saw her face to face, I knew of her visits. She deliberately left her stuff behind for me to notice. It was obviously a provocation. Despite fewer visits, she was still coming weekly, so I voiced my concerns to David again. David confessed, "I did tell her clearly. But every time, she says, 'Okay,' and then starts crying at the entrance, saying how hard and sad she feels, and I can't bring myself to send her away." I couldn't blame David further and just asked him to keep urging her to reduce her visits. He apologized each time, but the situation did not improve. A month passed since Alex's first visit. She continued to visit our house, and I was mentally exhausted. I wanted to stop her visits somehow. With that determination, I headed to a place I normally wouldn't go alone, David's parents' home. Perhaps there might be some interaction between the families since they were childhood friends. I thought I might find a solution there. I reluctantly rang the doorbell at my in-laws' home. I usually avoid this place for a reason. "Oh, Vanessa. Are you alone? It's been a while, Mother." My mother-in-law, seeing me alone, opened the door with an evident look of displeasure. "She is the reason I am disliked. What brings you here all of a sudden?" "I haven't been able to visit for a while, so I thought I'd stop by to say hello. I'm not pleased to see you. If David were with you, maybe I could tolerate it, but your visit alone is a waste of my time. It's almost refreshing to be spoken to so harshly face to face." Responding poorly would only add fuel to the fire. The best strategy was to smile politely and let it slide. "You're not a charming daughter-in-law at all. If only someone like Alex was my daughter-in-law, we could have built a good relationship." I was surprised to hear Alex's name come up. It was fortunate that the topic came from her, otherwise it might have seemed suspicious if I brought it up. My mother-in-law continued without minding my presence. David and Alex have always been close. She used to say she would marry David. And now he's married to a woman who can barely manage household duties and doesn't care for her home. I'm truly disappointed. I'm sorry, I haven't lived up to expectations. Rather than making excuses, I apologized. Yet, my mother-in-law continued to grumble about me, repeatedly saying, Alex would have been a better wife. If David and Alex were to marry, my mother-in-law would undoubtedly be overjoyed. With that thought, I absently listened to her nagging. 2 months since Alex's first visit was about to pass. Her visits continued. I became numb to seeing the forgotten items of hers. Vanessa, there's something important I need to talk about. David, who is usually smiling, approached me with a serious expression that day. The unusual seriousness in his demeanor made me tense.
Yeah.
What is it? Are you free this weekend? I'd like to have a serious talk. That's fine, but does it have to wait until the weekend?
Yeah.
The weekend would be better. With that, David left the living room. What could this important talk be about? We seem to be fine when it's just the two of us. Could it be about Alex? I felt uneasy. Part of me wanted to get it over with quickly. And another part didn't want the weekend to come, a mix of feelings. When the weekend arrived, my suspicions seemed to be confirmed. Alex was there, looking unsurprised to be involved in the discussion. David was the first to speak. Vanessa. I want us to get a divorce. I somewhat anticipated this. I feared our marriage might be falling apart. Yet, I had hoped he would choose me in the end. To think that just one person could end our marriage so easily, not even half a year into it, felt like a blow to the head. I like being needed. You being busy with work and leaving the household duties to me made me feel needed. I felt like I was supporting you. I thought so too. I believed it wasn't about gender roles, but about supporting each other in what we were good at and enjoyed. I thought we could do that together with David. But she can't do anything by herself. She can't live without my support. I need to be there for her. David really believed that. His desire to help someone in trouble and to be supportive was genuine. Whether it was right to abandon his wife to help someone else, however, was questionable. Glancing at Alex, she looked down but didn't seem remorseful. People who are sorry don't sit back comfortably and cross their legs on the sofa. She probably thought she finally managed to take David from me. David's obliviousness to these nuances might be considered a flaw. I suddenly felt foolish for being so serious about it. David's nature won't change. Even now, he might feel guilty towards me. But his actions were driven by a spirit of helping others. If I thought about it as him acting out of a desire to serve, it seemed unlikely that he would cut ties with Alex even if we didn't divorce. As long as I remained married to David, it seemed like this issue would haunt me forever. It felt quicker to just agree to the divorce now. I see. Regardless of the reason, I can't live with someone who has been unfaithful. Let's get divorced immediately. I printed out the divorce papers on my computer and thrust them in front of David. Sign it now. I'll sign it after and submit it immediately. David seemed taken aback by my swift action but took the papers and began to fill them out right there. I'm sorry for hurting you. But thank you for understanding. We will be happy. As he said this, David handed me the filled-out divorce papers. I took them without a word. As David and Alex were about to leave, Alex approached me and whispered, "We're going to live luxuriously from now on." Sorry for taking David from you. After saying that, Alex displayed a triumphant expression and left arm in arm with David. It seemed she was under a significant misunderstanding. But I no longer felt obligated to correct her. Regarding the divorce, I decided to hire a lawyer and arrange for a settlement. Since we had no children, the main discussion was about the division of property. Today, David, Alex, and I were supposed to meet at the lawyer's office to discuss. David declared he would agree to my terms. Alex objected discontentedly, but David silenced her, reminding her that it was only fair since they both hurt me. I demanded a fair division of property rights and sought compensation for their affair from both. Alex looked displeased at the mention of compensation, but her expression softened slightly when David said he would pay for both. After all the divorce procedures were completed, Alex stretched and addressed me. Finally, it's over. Well, I guess it was necessary for me to be happy with David. Vanessa, good luck living a frugal life. Alex laughed condescendingly at me. I didn't respond. David looked puzzled, but then joined the conversation. What are you talking about? Frugal life? What does that mean? Well, because she's divorcing you, right? Now she'll have to live a poor life. It's sad, really. Why would Vanessa be poor for divorcing me? Because you're a high earner, David. Since Vanessa is a housewife, she'll lose her income, right? Hearing Alex's words, David paused momentarily, then burst into laughter. What are you talking about? We're the ones who will be living the poor life. Huh? Alex looked at David and me in complete shock. I chose not to join the conversation. David, holding his stomach, continued laughing and speaking. Didn't I tell you Vanessa is the CEO? I never said I was the one working. You did say that, but I thought it was a joke. Was that true? Why would I lie about that? I was the house husband, and Vanessa was the one working. She's the president of the well-known ABC company. Hearing the company's name, Alex turned to me in disbelief. ABC company? The one that was on the news with annual sales of 150 million, that famous one? You're joking, right? I'm flattered you know of it. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Vanessa, president of ABC Company. I handed her my business card. Alex took it slowly, still in shock. The business card clearly displayed the company name. Alex's hands trembled slightly. Why? Your mother said David was an elite high earner. How can this be? Hearing this, David was now the one surprised. I listened silently to their conversation, thinking that Alex and my mother-in-law must have been conspiring after all. Mom too, why is she under that impression? I've told you what Vanessa does, haven't I? But your mother keeps saying it's unthinkable for a woman to earn more. She also said a woman should do all the housework, and that failing to fulfill wifely duties is disgraceful, among other things. What? That's ridiculous. Such thinking is outdated. David sighed, clearly frustrated with his mother's views. But I chose you over Vanessa. It's not about the money, it's for love. You understand that, right? While David spoke to Alex with a smile, Alex just stood there, dazed, seemingly unable to follow the conversation. Can we conclude this discussion now? You both agree with what's been settled, right? Yes, this finalizes our procedures. I feel terrible for hurting you, Vanessa. I'll make sure we don't interfere with your life again. Good. Make sure that person there and your mother also get the message to stay out of my affairs. Understood. Then, we'll be going now. David supported a completely deflated Alex as they left the law office. The shock of learning her conquest was actually a homemaker must have been profound. Whether they can build a good relationship going forward is highly questionable. But that's no longer my concern. I felt relieved to be free from this mess and found myself feeling lighter. Then, one day, while I was enjoying my newly single life, my secretary informed me that a woman was causing a scene at the entrance, demanding to see me. She wasn't a business contact, and she insisted on seeing the president. Despite my busy schedule, I instructed my secretary to bring her to the reception room and to stay with me. As expected, Alex was there, looking frantic and out of sorts. I regretted giving her my business card that day. "What brings you to my office so suddenly? Don't you realize that causing a scene at the entrance is a nuisance? I don't know your contact details, and when I tried going to your house, the concierge stopped me at the entrance. I couldn't talk to you, so I had to come here. We finished our negotiations the other day, didn't we? I never wanted to see you again. I didn't come here because I wanted to." Alex slammed her hand on the table. My secretary looked displeased, but I gestured for her to stay calm. "That's right. I came here to complain to you." "Complaint?" "Yes. You said there was a division of assets, but what about that amount? For the president of a big company like you, aren't you being stingy?" Alex ranted, clearly lacking composure. "I'm not being stingy. It was a fair amount." "Lies." "It's true." I doubted she would back down easily. Despite finding it tedious, I decided to explain. First of all, our marriage lasted only 6 months. During that period, we split my income fairly. And from that, compensation was paid to you and David. So it's only natural that the amount you received was less. At the mention of compensation, Alex gasped. She realized why tens of thousands had vanished, the reason tied to the compensation. For her and David. Still, why can't we live in that high-rise apartment? And the furniture, all of it should be our shared property, right? It's unfair that you get to keep everything. Alex persisted, and I grew weary of dealing with her. I explained calmly, looking away. "By the way, I felt uncomfortable when you first came to my house and looked around so freely. If we bought it after getting married, as you said, it would indeed be shared property." "What do you mean?" "That high-rise apartment and the furniture in the house. I bought all of it when I was single. So, everything is mine. There's not even a 1% chance you could live there." Faced with these harsh realities, Alex was visibly shocked. She murmured almost inaudibly, "That can't be. I thought if I married David, I'd get the property. The luxurious furniture, everything. Too bad you were deluded. But, you got a kind and skilled homemaker as a husband. Be happy with that." That's exactly the problem. Reinvigorated by my comments, Alex raised her voice. "What now?" "David tells me to work. He says I'm suited to be a homemaker, so you should go out and earn. I married David thinking I could live easily without working. If one partner takes care of the home, it's only natural for the other to work." Though Alex has her own issues, David can't be blamed for complaining. His ability to be a homemaker was only feasible because he was with someone like me, who wanted to work outside. Someone like me, who loves to work, would find a partner who handles household chores like David very suitable. I've always lived at home and never really worked. Now I'm juggling part-time jobs, but can't secure a stable income because I can't get a full-time job. David doesn't get mad, but he says, with my cooking skills, I can easily whip up cheap meals. So let's save money together as a couple. It's so annoyingly positive. That's true. He can be a bit troublesome. David's positivity is one of his strengths, but his inability to read the room can be irritating at times. He keeps saying things like, even if we live a frugal life, as long as we're together, it's fine. I'm confident I can make simple dishes exciting every day. I thought you'd be the one struggling with a frugal life, and I was happy about it. If I knew it would turn out like this, I would never have married David. I don't need a man like that, take him back. Her frustration probably stems from not being able to live the lavish life she imagined. She's forced into poverty, with a nice but unambitious husband. It's her own fault for being self-centered, and now she's facing the consequences. It's all her fault, yet she needs to blame me to feel better about herself. However, I couldn't care less. I don't care about your feelings. And I don't need a man who's cheated, whatever the reason. Is that all you wanted to say? Then please leave. As I spoke, my secretary didn't wait for Alex's response and quickly called security to escort her out. I could hear her shouting in the hallway, but her voice faded away. I instructed the security to keep her out if they see her again. I sighed deeply, tired of all the drama. Since then, there had been no more visits from Alex, and I was able to work peacefully. One day, as I was leaving the office without having to work late, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. Startled and unable to speak, I cautiously looked to find my mother-in-law glaring at me with anger. There you are. I've been waiting for hours, and you just wouldn't come out. How could you turn away your mother-in-law from your home like that? What kind of person does that? Following Alex, my mother-in-law showed up. I had forgotten there was another troublesome person. Her relentless waiting for me to come out of the office was unsettling. I responded firmly, hiding my discomfort. David and I are divorced now, so we're strangers. There's no reason to let someone who has no relation to me into my home. I've made sure the building management knows only people I approve can enter. The nerve. Respect your elders. She yelled in a shrill voice I had never heard before, which was quite unpleasant to my ears. I would, if there were anything respectful about you. Besides, why are you laying in wait? What do you need? Laying in wait sounds so sinister. I came all this way because I have something important to tell you. I didn't ask for that. I wanted to run away from this place immediately to escape her, fearing she might lay in wait again. I didn't want to meet this woman ever again. But I decided to listen to her to end everything today. Why didn't you tell me honestly that David wasn't working? Because you deceived me, I'm suffering terribly now. I told you many times. I was working while David took care of our home. You called me a liar and ignored it every time. Blaming me for her own misunderstandings was troubling. Then, you should have made sure I understood. I started living with David and his wife thinking I could enjoy a luxurious life. But the house isn't a high-rise apartment, and it's a simple meal every day. I can't stand it. You were after money too. Like Alex, you suffer because you rely on others' money. Shut up. It's all your fault that I'm in this situation now. Pay me a living allowance for life. That's absurd. How could that possibly be justified? Besides, isn't your husband working? Even if David and Alex can't provide, you should be able to manage for now, right? Indeed. My father-in-law was still active. Although he had been on a long-term business trip for many years and rarely returned home. However, there were occasions when I met him a few times a year. And he was always very kind to me. Dealing with my mother-in-law's nagging was troublesome, but tolerable thanks to my father-in-law's kindness. Well, that's She struggled to respond convincingly. When he came back recently, he found out about Alex's remarriage. And he divorced me. I was kicked out of the house, so I decided to live with David and Alex. It's natural for a father to ask questions when he returns after a long time and finds his son's wife has changed. My mother-in-law probably badmouthed me and made my father-in-law uncomfortable. But even after splitting with him, I thought I could live luxuriously because David was rich. So I asserted myself, and now I can't rely on your father-in-law either. It's truly astonishing. My father-in-law was a compassionate man who treated me kindly. If you reciprocated his feelings, he surely would have helped you. But this situation is your own doing because you disregarded everyone else. I certainly won't help you. My mother-in-law initially seemed a bit subdued, but as I firmly refused to help, her expression filled with anger again. How cruel. Inhuman. To think I have to beg someone like you. Whatever you say. If you continue to cause a scene, I'll call the police. It's a nuisance to have such commotion in front of my company. Hearing the word police, my mother-in-law's face turned pale. She bit her lip in frustration and left without saying anything else. Her shoulders slumped, burdened by despair. Here's what I heard from the lawyer later. Apparently, David, Alex, and my mother-in-law are still living together. David wanted to remain a homemaker, but realizing that Alex, and my mother-in-law couldn't earn enough together, he started looking for work. However, having not worked for several months without reasons like rehabilitation or caregiving, David could only find employment at a low-paying company. Eventually, David's salary alone wasn't enough. And Alex and my mother-in-law also had to take up part-time jobs just to scrape by. When David was the sole homemaker, the house was spotlessly clean. And homemade meals were served daily. Now, with everyone busy working, the house is a mess, meals are often pre-made, and arguments have become more frequent. Meanwhile, I was living a comfortable and carefree life. If I wanted a clean house, I could just hire a house cleaning service. And there were plenty of delicious dining options and deliveries available. I'm not averse to cooking, on the contrary, I sometimes find it a pleasant diversion. I was thoroughly enjoying my independent life. As for my work, I recently started a new business deal with the company where my father-in-law works, allowing us to meet again. Vanessa, I'm truly sorry. It's unforgivable what my foolish ex-wife and son have put you through. No amount of apologies can suffice. My father-in-law apologized to me, but he wasn't to blame for the recent events. Please, don't apologize. Although we're no longer family, I'd be happy if we could maintain a good relationship going forward. With that, my father-in-law smiled slightly and thanked me. After all this, I'm quite averse to romance for a while. I've decided to focus fully on my career.
Mother, your face is all red. Were you shocked to hear my husband's true feelings? You don't need a son like that anymore, do you? What? Please cut ties with me as a parent. Mom, you're not only out of money, you might end up in debt from cleaning up the factory, right? It's troublesome if you're targeted for money. And, I hate it when you're broke and in debt, yet you still ask for care. I see. I understand now. Then, I'll take everything that belongs to Dad. That's fine, right? Yeah, that's fine. Please take care of the rest. After my husband passed away, my eldest son spoke his true feelings without any reservations. Having always disliked both me and my husband, he decided I was of no use to him and demanded that we cut ties. I was almost relieved to do so. 2 years later, I found myself sitting on a bench outside the supermarket, having a simple lunch. It was there that I encountered a face I did not wish to see. "Is that you, Mom?" "It really is. It's been a while. Are you having lunch here? And from that food truck over there? What a luxurious lunch you have." "Luxurious? Don't you think a food truck bowl is a luxury item if you have no money? What kind of poor life are you leading now? Are you still working, or are you living on a pension? Can you live on just your pension? If not, can you receive welfare? Are you actually living on welfare? This is the first time I've seen someone living on welfare. How is life at the bottom of welfare?" Forever scorned by my eldest son and his wife, who saw me as poor, I decided to enlighten them about my situation. I'm Kathy, 59 years old, and work at a small auto repair shop owned by my husband, Michael. Life has always been hard, but I managed and felt some happiness working with my husband. I believed Michael felt the same. However, our son, Ryan, didn't always see it that way. As a middle schooler, he became clearly rebellious. "Don't come near me. You stink of oil. What are you saying to your father? He is working hard for us. Mom, don't be so mad. It's true he stinks of oil." Ryan shouted at Michael as they passed in the living room. I immediately defended my husband, which Ryan did not like. He glared at me and stomped off to his room. Michael seemed not to care, but his actions said otherwise. Teenage rebellion is inevitable, especially when we live in a not-so-clean auto repair shop and aren't wealthy. But such rebellions are usually resolved over time. The cafe nearby seems to have shut down. Really? Wasn't it just established last year? Yeah. It hasn't even been a year. Doing business is really tough. I really appreciate what my parents are doing. A cafe and an auto repair shop are different, right? Still, maintaining a business is the same. As a college student, Ryan understood the hardships of self-employment and stopped being venomous. Although Michael heard the exchanges, he pretended not to while reading the newspaper. I considered confronting him but decided against it, thinking it too mean. After graduating from college, my eldest son moved out of the house. Make sure you don't oversleep and be late for work. Don't just eat microwave food or supermarket side dishes, try to cook for yourself. Don't worry so much. I'll be fine. See you, Dad. Don't worry about it. He would only suffer by taking over such a small shop. I watched Ryan's back as he left, larger than I remembered. As he vanished, Michael and I silently confirmed our parenting was complete. After my eldest son moved out, he seldom returned home. He only came back for Christmas, and without a call from us, there wouldn't be any contact. It felt a bit lonely, but I thought that was just how boys were. I felt lucky that he still returned for Christmas and answered our calls. However, about 5 years ago, he stopped coming home altogether and even stopped answering his phone. I became very worried due to the complete lack of communication, but my husband didn't seem nearly as concerned. I wonder if he's all right. If he's managing to live well. Are you worried about Ryan again? He's fine. He would contact us if something was wrong. Michael responded without looking up from his newspaper, tired of the same conversation. Ryan was 31, an important age for work and marriage, yet no contact worried me. I reluctantly placed a cup of coffee in front of Michael with a louder thud than usual. But soon, Michael's perspective proved correct. Mom, it's been a while. I'm coming home soon. There's someone I want you to meet. Wait, what does that mean? Yeah, that's what it means. Make sure you're ready and don't embarrass us. I was thrilled by the call from Ryan after such a long silence, and even more so by the news of his marriage. Excited, I rushed to Michael. Guess what? He's getting married. Are you talking about a celebrity marriage? No. Ryan is getting married, and he's bringing his bride home. See, there was no need to worry. Michael smirked at me. Despite my annoyance, I had to admit he was right. Soon, Ryan would bring his bride home. No parent could help but feel a bit nervous. Am I okay? Do I look strange? Relax, you've changed outfits several times already. It's just a greeting, there's no need to worry so much. I can't help but worry. It's the first time meeting her, and she's going to marry Ryan, after all. Today is the day Ryan is bringing his fiancée home. I've been bustling about since the morning, but my husband is leisurely reading the newspaper and drinking coffee. I wonder what kind of person Ryan is bringing. My heart is full of hope and anxiety, but I'm more hopeful, eagerly waiting for their arrival. However, my expectations would soon be disappointed by this marriage introduction. An hour later, Ryan and his fiancée arrived at our home. We're home. I'll introduce her quickly. This is Sarah, whom I'm going to marry. Nice to meet you. I apologize for the intrusion. Nice to meet you. I'm Ryan's mother, Kathy. Come in, your father is waiting in the living room. We exchanged brief greetings at the entrance. Ryan's fiancée looked stylish and beautiful, the very image of a modern adult woman. She seemed a bit younger than Ryan. Unlike my humble days working at the auto repair shop, she radiated a sparkling aura. Then I headed to the living room where my husband was waiting. Dad, long time no see. Indeed, it feels like 100 years. You don't even call, you unfilial child. I came today to make up for those 100 years of being unfilial. Right. Both of you have a seat quickly. It had been 5 years since we last saw Ryan, but our relationship hadn't changed. As Ryan entered the living room, my husband immediately joked, looking at his face. Embarrassed by the first parent-child conversation in front of his fiancée, I glanced at her face to see her expression relaxing slightly. Relieved, I went to the kitchen to make some coffee. Sarah works at the same company as me. Oh, so you're both in office equipment sales? No, Sarah is in a different department, she's not in sales. Also, I changed jobs 3 years ago, we met at the new company. I see. You quit your previous job then? Yeah. By the way, we've moved and now live surprisingly close, about an hour away by car. While making coffee, I listened carefully to the conversation coming from the living room and checked on the three of them. The conversation mainly involved my husband and Ryan, while his fiancée seemed to be looking around the room, perhaps feeling a bit out of place. I decided to offer her a lifeline. Did you notice something that caught your eye? I placed the coffee on the table and addressed Ryan's fiancée. My question paused the conversation between my husband and Ryan, hopefully starting a discussion among all four of us. However, still a bit nervous, Ryan's fiancée misspoke. No, nothing in particular. I just heard from Ryan that you run a factory. Expected a fancier house? Sorry for disappointing you. We're not the wealthy type of business owners, but the poorer kind. Watch your words, it's embarrassing. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Don't worry, no need to rush. It's all good. My husband and I couldn't help but laugh at the words of Ryan's fiancée. Ryan, embarrassed, looked down. Neither of us was angry, in fact, her slip made the conversation easier. Seeing us laugh, Ryan's fiancée realized we were easygoing and gradually began to speak more openly. This smoothed the conversation, and we managed to bond successfully. Initially, I was intimidated by her stylish and beautiful appearance, but she turned out to be quite friendly. It seemed like we could get along well in the future. 3 months after the marriage introduction, Ryan got married successfully. They didn't live with us, so my life didn't change much, but there were small differences. I found some tasty-looking sweets online and ordered some. I arranged for them to be delivered to you as well, so please try them. You bought them again? I told you it's okay. I want someone to share opinions with. My husband just eats without saying anything. I can imagine that. He's kind of unemotional, isn't he? It seems so. He only used to come home for Christmas, right? From now on, we thought we'd visit during Easter and Christmas, if that's okay with you? Of course, I'm looking forward to it. Once Ryan got married, his wife began contacting us regularly instead of him. She even showed thoughtfulness by occasionally sending us things. This is perhaps the difference between men and women. Several months passed, and during their first Easter visit as a married couple, Ryan's wife mentioned they would come to our house. I put extra effort into preparing lunch, but this lunch inadvertently caused a small incident. Sarah, did the meal not suit your taste? No, that's not it. I'll eat now. Ryan's wife smiled as she ate the lunch I prepared, but I could sense her smile was forced. Concerned by her reaction, I kept glancing at her expression. In contrast, my husband and Ryan were having a lively conversation while eating. Eventually, Ryan's wife didn't finish her meal, leaving some behind. After lunch, as I was cleaning up the dishes alone, Ryan approached me quietly. Mom, what were you thinking? It's Sarah's first Easter visit, and you serve a bowl dish for lunch. Isn't that too rough? Oh. Really? I just wanted the younger generation to try it. I get that you're good at making bowl dishes, but you need to choose the right time and occasion. If you don't make something more elaborate or order takeout, it might seem like you're slacking. Sarah was worried you might dislike her. I didn't mean that. But yes, you're right. Sorry. I didn't intend to skimp on lunch, so there was no real need to apologize. However, even if it was a misunderstanding, I felt bad for making Ryan and his wife uncomfortable and found myself apologizing. After the bowl incident, the contacts from Ryan's wife, which used to occur every 2 or 3 months, ceased. They visited again the following Christmas, but after that, they stopped coming for Easter. I regret serving a bowl dish during their first visit. Seeing my regret, my husband kindly spoke to me. Wasn't that bowl dish one of your proud creations? It's been praised by many, so you should be more confident. The lack of contact from Sarah isn't related to the dish. They are both in their 30s and busy with work. It's probably just that they are busy. They'll contact us again eventually. Remember, it was the same when Ryan got married, right? Michael's words are all true. I felt a bit more confident because of what he said. Whenever I get panicked or anxious, he always has something to say. His words might seem careless, like I shouldn't worry or that I'm overthinking things. However, his words make me feel better. There have been times when I was annoyed by his nonchalant attitude, but looking back, his words have often been a great comfort to me. After 30 years of marriage, I've just come to realize this. Surely, I'll continue to rely on him. However, I thought this just as Michael fell ill, creating a situation where I couldn't rely on him as much. I'm sorry. It looks like I won't be able to work anymore. This is my retirement. Michael seemed pleased to be able to retire while lying in the hospital bed. However, knowing that he had recently enjoyed his work, he must feel regretful about retiring just as he started to enjoy his job. I can't tinker with cars, but I'll continue with the work I can do. That way, if your health improves and you want to come back to work, you can, right? I'm 64 years old. If I've fallen ill, there's no coming back, right? You're only 64. There are people working past 70, so it's fine. Besides, I want to keep working because I want to. Do what you want. For now, I'm retired. All right, all right. Michael responded with a firm tone, but his expression wasn't entirely serious. His words and demeanor at 60 made my motivation for work double. Despite our wishes, Michael's condition worsened. Naturally, he couldn't return to work, and a year passed in no time. There was another problem, besides his illness. We had informed Ryan about his father's illness, but throughout the year, we neither saw Ryan and his wife nor heard from them. When I told Ryan over the phone that his father had fallen ill, he said, "Dad's sick? Got it. I'll come by sometime." What does sometime mean for Ryan? 2 more years passed, and 3 years after Michael fell ill, he passed away without Ryan and Sarah ever showing their faces. He was only 67. A bit early, huh? Well, he struggled a lot when he was younger, probably shortened his lifespan. So, when should I come back? When I informed Ryan over the phone that Michael had passed away, he showed no sadness. Instead, he made incredible remarks that mocked the hard work Michael had done for the family and indicated he had no intention of helping with the funeral. I was angered by Ryan's cold response, but I didn't have the time or the emotional space to argue. After hanging up, I took a deep breath and busied myself with the necessary arrangements and cleanup to distract from my feelings. In the end, Ryan did not help with any funeral preparations, and by the time the funeral was over, he had disappeared. Calls to him went unanswered. Perhaps it's time to reconsider our relationship with Ryan and his wife. A little over a month after Michael's funeral, I had calmed down somewhat, but still no word from Ryan. Why had the attitude of Ryan and his wife, who initially had a good relationship with us, changed so drastically? As I wondered this and prayed at the family altar, I heard a familiar voice at the door. "Mom, are you there?" It seems Ryan and his wife had come. As I headed to greet them at the entrance, I heard them barge into the house and head straight for the living room. I redirected myself from the entrance to the living room. "Ah, there you are." As I entered the living room, Ryan and his wife were sprawled out in the exact spot where Michael used to sit. I tried to keep my breathing calm as I listened to them. "What are you here for? It's about time we discussed the inheritance, right?" "Of course, we came to say we don't need anything." "What?" I was surprised by Ryan's words, thinking they were after Michael's estate. Amused by my reaction, Ryan and his wife continued to smirk and talk. "I know. Dad's factory was built on leased land, and when it's returned, it will cost several tens of thousands to demolish, right? A month has passed since Dad died and the factory is still untouched, which means there's no money because he was a poor businessman, right? The house is an old wreck built over 30 years ago and hardly worth anything. So, taking something that won't make any money is just a hassle, and we'll leave all the rest to you, Mom." A hassle, for that reason. Isn't that reason enough? I looked it up, and cleaning up the factory costs quite a bit, doesn't it? "Mother, are you okay with money?" "What are you talking about?" "That's why we're saying to take care of everything troublesome. See, this is why I told you there's no need to keep Mom and Dad happy. Really disappointing. I had a slight hope, because you said you were running a factory." "Well, the world isn't so sweet, is it?" "Wait. Can you explain clearly what you're saying?" As Ryan and his wife rapidly continued with their incomprehensible conversation, I got irritated and raised my voice. However, they were not fazed by my shouting and began to answer my questions honestly. "When we got married, we got along with you in case the factory business went well so we could get some money. Ryan had been estranged from you, so if we wanted money, we had to be on good terms, right?" I said it was pointless, though. I thought there might be a chance, but it seemed there wasn't any hope right away, so we stopped bothering. We even ate that poor-smelling bowl dish and made annoying phone calls, all for nothing. You don't know how hard it is to run a factory, so thinking there's a chance isn't strange. It was really the worst. Dad reeked of oil and never took us on a trip because he made so little money. But that was because he was cutting living expenses to send Ryan to college, right? Yeah, I got to college, but that doesn't change my hate for Dad, Mom, and this house. I just played the good son because I didn't want him to get mad and not pay for college. I can't believe I endured 4 years. Well, consider it a thank you for paying the tuition and letting you experience a good parent-child relationship. My anger grew as Ryan and his wife's true feelings came to light. Had we been happy for nothing about their marriage? Does Ryan not appreciate Michael's hard work at all? My breathing became rougher as my anger became uncontrollable. Mother, your face is all red. Were you shocked to hear my husband's true feelings? You don't need a son like that anymore, do you? What? Please cut ties with me as a parent. Mom, you're not only out of money, you might end up in debt from cleaning up the factory, right? It's troublesome if you're targeted for money. And, I hate it when you're broke and in debt, yet you still ask for care. I see. I understand now. I made a list of the things Dad left behind, but do you want to check it? I don't need it, I don't need it. There's nothing of value there anyway. Then, I'll take everything that Dad left behind. That's fine, right? Yeah, that's fine. Then, please take care of everything else. Just before my anger exploded, Ryan and his wife left. When the source of my anger disappeared from my sight, I couldn't help but laugh unexpectedly. Surely, they will regret not taking anything. 2 years after my husband passed away, I turned 65. Today, I was wandering around outside to meet someone I knew from work. It's quite tough moving around at this age. I decided to take a break and sat on a bench outside the supermarket to have a simple lunch. The supermarket was bustling with various people, including families with children. I thought of someone's face from when they were that small and cute. Was it wrong to think that? I ended up encountering someone I didn't want to see. Hey, isn't that you, Mom? It really is. Long time no see. Are you having lunch here? And from that food truck over there? That's quite a luxurious meal. Luxurious? You demolished the factory, right? I passed by the other day and it was gone. You must have spent the non-existent money on demolishing it, right? You have no money and yet, a food truck bowl is a luxury item, isn't it? What do you usually eat? Beans? Bread? 2 years have passed and it seems Ryan and his wife haven't changed at all. However, I have nothing to say to Ryan and his wife anymore. Ignoring their irritating words, I walked to the food truck where I bought the bowl to dispose of the empty container. Still not satisfied with teasing me, Ryan and his wife followed me, continuing to talk as I ignored them. Hey, don't ignore us. What kind of poor life are you leading now? Are you still working, or are you living on a pension? Can you live on just your pension? If you can't live on a pension, you can receive welfare, right? Are you living on welfare? I've never seen someone living on welfare. How is life at the bottom of welfare? Exasperated, I let out a sigh. If I keep ignoring them, they seem likely to follow me forever, so I decided to enlighten Ryan and his wife with a fact I didn't necessarily need to share. It was delicious. Keep it up. Look, a poor person telling the food truck guy to keep it up, acting all high and mighty. You should be the one to keep it up. Who do you think you're talking to? Obviously you. The welfare-reliant mother. Welfare? Who's on welfare? What, you're not on welfare? Then, are you still working? What kind of job are you doing? I walked away from the food truck and led Ryan and his wife to a quieter part of the parking lot where we could speak more freely if voices were raised. The food truck where you bought that bowl is my shop. What do you mean? You're the owner of that store? Should I call myself the owner? A single food truck won't make much income, right? It's not just that store. I've managed about 300 stores so far. 300 stores? If you're going to lie, at least make it a believable lie. Right. No way that's believable. Well, look at this then. I took out my smartphone and showed Ryan and his wife a website. Mobile vending. Food truck franchise recruitment. Next, look here. See, my name is written, right? I then navigated from the home page to the company profile page and showed them the name of the representative. Could it be 300 stores is true? Yes, it's true. You had complaints about my bowl dish, right? That was one of the prototypes when I started the food truck. What? You were already starting the food truck back then? Why didn't you tell us? Starting a food truck near 60, it was too trendy to mention, and embarrassing if I failed, right? So, I planned to tell you once it was making a bit of income. But since we hardly communicated and you spoke poorly of Dad, I lost the desire to tell you. 300 franchise contracts mean substantial royalties. Yes. It's less than when Dad was alive, but it might still be more than both of your salaries. Dad? What does he have to do with it? The food trucks rely on what Dad built according to the franchise owner's requests. As the number of contracts increased, Dad's work increased too. Since Dad passed away, I've been relying on a car shop acquaintance, so the income has dropped somewhat. 300 stores, that's a lot of money. Ryan's wife seemed to be calculating the large number in her head. However, the number 300 was a bit of an exaggeration to make things look good. The 300 stores were the total number contracted so far. Some contracts had been terminated, so the current number was less than 100, but I hadn't lied since I originally said I managed 300 stores, not that I currently have 300 contracts. They misunderstood it as currently having 300 contracts. I could correct the misunderstanding, but I felt better letting it stand. So, you've really grown to 300 stores, huh? I never imagined the business would grow this large at the beginning. In fact, I stopped running my own food truck after about a year. Using the connections I made as a business owner, I was able to secure various locations for vending and participate in events, which went quite well. But operating a food truck really requires physical stamina, and starting at 60 was tough. You quit the food truck, then why franchise? When I was quitting, a regular young girl said she wanted to take over. That sparked the idea of franchising. By the way, that girl was the one in front of the supermarket entrance. She's a hard worker. As her reputation grew, young people came to me wanting to do the same. I wanted to support these young people, so I allowed them to choose their shop names and lowered the royalties, which helped it spread even more. Then I made it possible to recruit nationwide on the website, and it ended up expanding to 300 stores. I see. If it's that big, then demolishing the factory should be easy. Why didn't you demolish it for a month? I just put it off because I was too busy with work. Now that Ryan and his wife understood that I had managed franchises for 300 stores over 5 years, they clearly began to choose their words more carefully. From here, I could guess what Ryan and his wife might say next. So, when Dad's inheritance was settled, you were already 3 years into the food truck business, right? You must have been making some money by then, right? So we should get something, shouldn't we? I made it clear that I would take everything, remember? I even prepared the inheritance documents, but you didn't check them, did you? Why should I have to give you money now? Ryan was silenced by my argument. If he had glanced at the inheritance documents I prepared even for a second, none of this would have happened, so his frustration was understandable. However, at this point, his wife realized something and, forgetting I was in front of her, spoke to Ryan. Wait a minute. Kathy is in her mid-60s. Even if we've cut ties, eventually, the money she makes will end up going to Ryan, won't it? That's true. When you think about it, the more she works, the more I stand to gain. Maybe if we take over the company, we could get all the royalties. The two of them were excited, thinking that my earnings would eventually flow to them. It's unfortunate for them to be happy about such thoughts, as I have no intention of letting that happen. Sorry, but I don't plan to leave anything for you. What? I'm getting older, and work is becoming difficult. I'm not taking on new contracts anymore, just supporting the current ones. So, the number of contracts will only decrease, not increase. But the ones that are doing well will continue to operate, right? I'm planning to eventually dismantle the franchise headquarters and have everyone operate independently. Why? It's normal to pass the management to your child, like me, rather than to strangers. Well, many of our contract partners are young people. When I see their efforts, they feel like my own sons and daughters. I'd rather do something for these new children, who I've seen more often than you, who hasn't shown your face since your father fell ill. Upon hearing that I intended to dismantle the franchise headquarters, Ryan collapsed to his knees. His wife tried to console him wrongly. It's okay. The money your mother made will still come to us. How much can a person underestimate others? I certainly don't want to leave anything to such people. Unfortunately, I plan to spend all the money. What? I'm thinking of moving to a high-rise condo for the elderly. It has a full-time care staff, and they provide 24/7 support. It's expensive, but I have my savings and the royalties that come in every month. Plus, I want to travel while I can still walk, and I plan to buy whatever I want without holding back. Looks like my retirement is going to be busy. My declaration of spending caused Ryan's wife to collapse too. How I spend my money is none of Ryan and his wife's business since we've already cut ties. After living as a poor business owner, I want to enjoy some luxury in my old age. Above all, I've decided to spend all the money I've earned. No one can stop my extravagant retirement life now. Well, I just came to see honest, hardworking kids at work, so I'm heading back now. I left Ryan and his wife, who were squatting on the ground unable to move, and walked away from the supermarket without entering the store. Hearing about my success with food trucks, Ryan and his wife must have thought running a food business was easy. They quit their jobs, used their savings, and opened a cafe with additional borrowed money. Naturally, the food and beverage industry isn't that sweet. In my case, it only grew because young franchisees were dedicated. While I initially helped with locations and events, I learned more from the franchisees as time went on. Though Ryan's cafe initially attracted customers, it didn't last. A shop without quality will not keep customers, and within a year, it closed. Hadn't he seen cafes close within a year when he was in college? Had he learned nothing from that? After closing the cafe, the couple had used up their savings and, with no revenue, ended up in debt due to loans and the cost of dismantling the shop interior. Now that they had first-hand experience of how tough it is to earn a daily living through their own business, they shouldn't be able to mock my husband's work anymore. As planned, I moved to the high-rise condo and began reducing my workload. Today, I'm going to check out an event where a child from a nearby area who is working hard has set up a booth.